What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So with earnings season right around the corner, we could be seeing some pretty crazy moves in the EV sector. So I wanted to go over the top 5 most heavily shorted EVs in the market as of right now. So I want to go over all the things that you need to know, but first make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with stock number 5, you have NIO sitting at 464. Over the last 1 year, it is up 11.27%. Then over the last 1 month, it's down 7.57. A lot of good information here as well as down here. So for those of you that like quantitative data, it shows evaluation, growth, profitability, momentum, and revisions. I'm not necessarily going to go over that in this video only because that would make it like a 40-minute long video. So feel free to kind of pause it, just see the rating. But for this video, we are going to be talking about this right here. So in position number 5, NIO, 8.41% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 171.43 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average is kind of on the low end, 0.87%. That is an annual rate, not a daily rate. But in this case, you actually do see some signs of naked shorting. So shares on loan being at 83.67 million, number of shares being shorted 171. You should never have more shares being shorted than on loan. So definitely some sketchy stuff is happening with NIO. Aside from that, if we actually look here, shorts surprisingly have been returning over the last several weeks for whatever reason. And that's not necessarily just NIO, that's happening across the board in most cases, with exception of a handful that's in this video. But for the most part, shorts have definitely taken a very big notable step back because even way back in April, short interest was around 17%. So definitely something to keep in mind. DTC being at 3.47 days does really signal that shorts are very overextended. DTC factors in the average volume in comparison to number of shares being shorted. And then finally, through IBKR, it does indicate more than 10 million shares available to be shorted. Reason why I bring that up is sometimes with stocks with a limited supply, you could be seeing some institutions buy the stock just for the purposes of lending it out. So sometimes with limited supply, you could actually be seeing some abnormal kind of pushing higher as institutions will be buying. But in NIO's case, there's more than enough available shares, so probably won't be occurring. So NIO is stock number 5. Moving on to stock number 4, Polestar, $20.99. This stock has been a beast over the last month for the most part, ever since it did the whole reverse stock split. So over the last 1 year, down 39.16, and then over the last 1 month, up 17.46. Right now, we do have 12.28% of the free floats being shorted, works to be 1.58 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average, extremely high, 270.88%. Again, an annual rate, not a daily rate, but still is fairly high. Short score, higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening. So that's 88.69. And in my opinion, Polestar, as long as they can somehow muster up some good catalyst, you actually could see a very good squeeze because shorts are extremely overextended with this stock. So DTC being at 6.36 days, so very overextended. So even though this is position number 4, that's just based on the short interest percentage. But generally, I do feel that Polestar could have a pretty nice squeeze. Again, they need that catalyst though. And there is very limited supply, so roughly around 55,000 shares. So most likely going into this upcoming week, you could be seeing some buying from, again, BlackRock, Vanguard, a lot of the big names that like to buy stocks just to lend out. So Polestar is stock number 4. Moving on to stock number 3, good old Rivian, sitting at 19.22. Over the last 1 year, it is up 38.77%. Then over the last 1 month, up 9.1. So definitely gaining some pretty good momentum. Valuation though is set at a D-. Growth B+, profitability, and so forth. So again, look at the quantitative data. Even up here, you show Seeking Alpha Analysts a rating out of 5, so 3.6. Then Wall Street Analysts out of 5, so 3.36 out of 5. Right now, 19.83% of the free floats being shorted, works to be 159.8 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow is kind of on the low end, 0.58%. Right now, short score 65.59, so it's kind of on the low end, and DTC being 3.53 days does really as well signal that shorts are overextended. Interesting kind of turn of events though. This is the first time this has ever happened in Rivian's history, but you actually do see some signs of naked shorting as well. So shares on loan being 154 and then 159 being kind of shorted. So there's kind of an overlap of about 5 million shares. Even looking back, this has never happened. Sorry for that weird glitch, but this has never happened ever. So definitely something is sketchy stuff is happening behind the scenes a little bit. Right now, 4.9 million shares is available to be shorted. So in my opinion, that's kind of sufficient. So most likely you won't be seeing any buying just for the purposes of lending out stock going into this upcoming week. Moving on to stock number 2, Faraday Future, sitting at 109. Over the last 1 year, it is down 30.13%. Then over the last 1 month, pretty flat. They did have a big event on, I believe it was January the 7th. More transparency was given. Unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest, and you kind of saw a little bit more of a pullback because of that. But 22.13% of the free floats being shorted works to be 42.4 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average sitting at 13.9%. Short score 83.7. Again, higher the number, higher likelihood of a squeeze happening. DTC being at 7.38 days. And through IBKR does indicate about 20,000 shares. So you might be seeing some buying going into this upcoming week. It is fairly limited for available shares, but cost to borrow isn't that high. So again, if I'm going to be, or like an institution, for example, is going to be buying, they want to make it worthwhile, right? Like, so 10% isn't that great. So they might want a little bit higher, such as Polestar numbers, where it was in kind of 100% plus. So Faraday is stock number 2, moral of the story. And then moving on to stock number 1, ever since I've always done these videos, like there's always been the same stock at pole position, and that is Lucid, sitting at 1133. Over the last 1 year, it is down 62.48%, and then over the last 5 days, pretty flat, minorly green, but nothing crazy. 35.57% of the free floats being shorted works to be 46.3 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average has been inching up over the last week, but still 19.48%. Short score 82.8. DTC 5.79 days. So definitely some interesting stuff. Shorts have starting to really double down ever since the low of first week of November when it went down to about 25%. Then they decided to kind of bring all hell and just Armageddon to try to really bring it down. You can kind of see these spikes right here. That is FTDs. So that does signal as well some sketchy stuff. In Lucid's case, you don't see naked shorting being apparent from here, but FTDs definitely are. So that's kind of one thing that could potentially cause and allude to some manipulation behind the scenes. So again, something just to kind of keep in mind. So there's a big grouping in July as well as November, and then pretty much in May as well of this year. Through IBKR, roughly around 80,000 shares is available to be shorted. So let me know your thoughts on these top 5 EVs. Are you owning any of them? Do you think any of them with the upcoming earnings season, do you think that's going to prompt a squeeze in any of them? Or do you think that is just going to be a either stagnant or red? What's your kind of general thoughts? Hopefully everyone's having a good weekend. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid on-point buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all you watching.